back, folks. Welcome, all you Bi-Conics fans out there, to the Bi-Conics Review of Honor of ROH, or BRO. And Mikey, it feels a little more full this week than even last week. We have new people here. JVL here. We've got Mikey. We've got Jesse sitting next to me. And who is this, Mikey? Please introduce us to our newest host.
Well, I felt that it was a bit of an unfair last week of a 2-on-1 situation, so I brought him back up this week. And by backup, I mean we're expanding the Bi-Conics family. But I am bringing Andrew into my corner. You may or may not have seen him on our Bi-Conics actual wrestling podcast episode where we talked about favorite wrestlers, favorite matches, but most of the time we spent talking about the conspiracy theory of what is happening merger as I was trying to figure out internet problems due to a power outage. So that was a lot of fun.
So, Andrew, what I'm getting from that is that you're going to be running the new podcast that's kind of like, Serial. We're going to be figuring out that conspiracy theory over the next 10 weeks is what I'm
getting. I heard about that discussion. Yeah, that sounds like it should be quite the rabbit hole to go down.
I appreciate it. But so, Andrew, tell us a little about yourself before we get stuck in here on our wonderfully long ROH.
Yeah, so I actually have worked with and known the professor for, coming up on, I think, a couple decades now. So we teach together. We teach stage combat and theater together, and have been friends for a while. So he got me involved in all this. I've been a wrestling fan since I was a kid. Was lucky enough to grow up through the wonderful days of 80s wrestling and be a teenager through the years of the Monday Night Wars and got to experience all that kind of stuff. So I got some glory days of wrestling and took a little break, came back when AEW started being a thing and we could start seeing some wrestling more and more outside of the wonderful world of WWE. And I've been loving watching so much wrestling without having to watch much WWE.
I believe you on that one. And so you've known the professor since he was the undergrad, so that's even better.
Yes.
I'm excited to have you aboard. Mikey, thank you for finding, again, amazing people. We already know that you're going to have some great insights to do on this. Have you watched much Ring of Honor before this, or did you know much about Ring of Honor before Mikey decided to stick you on the C show?
So I got into Ring of Honor, like I had seen like bits and pieces of it, and I started watching it right before it kind of shut down during the pandemic and was being kind of turned over into AEW. This is kind of my refresher into it. I do have to say it's been interesting watching the new product because now that it's kind of the NXT of AEW, it almost seems like Ring of Honor and Impact have kind of swapped places with the products that they kind of present. So it's been kind of cool to see the kind of growth of Ring of Honor into getting some more spotlight and some big attention. I'm loving it. I love like the styles that they have with the Pure Championships, championship, the 6-man championship, and what they're doing with all their titles. And I've been watching some of their champions as they tend to show up a lot on AEW. So it's been pretty cool.
Well, welcome aboard here. As you may or may not know, Mikey and I forgot to this last week, but just like Ring of Honor, we do have to start off with the Code of Honor. So we'll stick our hands out. Everyone shake. Here we are. Code of Honor is observed. So, Mikey, I think Jesse put it best in a text to me today going, an hour 45 Ring of Honor. Huh. I'm not surprised, but I'm also like, they hate us. They want us to be like overwhelmed at this point because they put so much into these shows and it is quick, but honestly, like, man, sometimes it just, oh my God, like just take 2 or 3 matches out and save them for next week. Be wonderful.
Well, okay, so to give some context to both Andrew and Jesse, so I've had this conversation with JVL on multiple occasions, and it still never changes. Because I always make the mistake, I was like, oh, they posted the match card on the social media. So I go look, I was like, oh, look at that, like 5 or 6 matches. And then once you get to the actual episode, I'm like, oh, okay, 5, 6 matches, maybe 7 get advertised. All right, like an hour, like we're good. And then I look at the timestamp when I watched the episode. I was like, what do you mean it's an hour and 45?
Oh, and Andrew, this isn't the longest. About 4 weeks ago, we had a 13 match card.
It was
we're watching a
2 hours and 15 minutes and they lied to me. I was like, I have to go to work in the morning.
Match card subject to change.
Subject to addition at that point.
Seriously.
Started off the night with a promo that was teased on Dynamite having happened after the combining of titles match between Claudio Castagnoli and Eddie Kingston, where Eddie got to go over how much this meant to him to win the ROH title, both as a tribute to his former mentor Xavier, who doesn't get a lot of love, but also just in general being at home and having his family there. It was really heartfelt, and like you could tell he was welling up during it. This means a lot to him. And Mikey and I were saying on the last thing, we are so excited to have Eddie Kingston defending on ROH TV soon. I think it's going to bring a lot of good dynamic to the program.
Well, yeah, because the actual title is back on the Ring of Honor where it belongs and not just using as set dressing for on Dynamite. Like, come on now.
What do you two think about seeing Eddie Kingston live on ROH now? Do you think he's going to fit in?
I think he's going to fit in well, honestly, and I'm happy to see the title back where it belongs and not just used as a prop, as Mikey had said. But I think he's going to be a better holder for that title, and not so much adding credibility to it, but add a way to relate to it, because Eddie Kingston is a much more relatable person character than Claudio is. And I like Claudio. Claudio is a great worker. I know I'm one of the few who actually really enjoys his work. But I think Eddie's going to be a much better fit for this style of wrestling.
Yeah, for sure. I think Eddie Kingston, he brings a very different dynamic than a lot of the other wrestlers. He's got kind of that grit to him. And it'll be interesting to see kind of what his challengers are, how they kind of bring them up and present them. Because I think there's a lot of good opportunities. And yeah, hopefully we get to see them really kind of focus on that title.
Definitely. Quick, to the point, was recorded earlier, but it was a good way to start the show off. As like the new era has started. We have Eddie Kingston kind of lead us in. We go into our title card, and then we get what one of the matches that Mikey and I were overly excited about, but I know this is going to be fun. It was going to be Nick Wayne taking on Katsuyori Shibata for the Pure Rules title. And watching this match, just seeing, two wrestlers, one wrestler who's not familiar with the Pure style, having that story told with it, I think you got a good introduction to what ROH can handle that's not just sports entertainment, that's not anything else. I really would love to hear what everyone thought about this, though, because I loved this match.
So this is the first pure wrestling match that I have seen in a very, very long time, and it was a good reintroduction for me. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the pacing. I enjoyed Nick Wayne's just got such a bright future and career ahead of him. The kid's 18 years old and just moves very, very smoothly, very flawlessly. It's very impressive to watch. The barricade, when Shibata was throwing against the barricade like 3 or 4 in a row, those were just brutal. It was, of course I'm smiling at that, but they were brutal to watch. And that ankle lock that he just grabbed his foot right out of the air. Again, just Shibata showing how wonderful and his I can't even think of the word right now. His experience in the ring and in that style showed there, and it kind of helped to leverage Nick to needing to use his rope breaks very, very quickly. So to me, it was a good match. I knew the ending coming out of it, but I enjoyed the journey in getting to that end.
Oh, Mikey's having a conniption.
It is no secret that Katsuyori Shibata is the man for me in terms of I love Katsuyori Shibata, and I've always said this, I'm happy he's the Pure Rules. I think my favorite moment of this particular match, I agree with what has been said so far. Great pacing. Nick Wayne is a star, but one of my standout moment of this particular match is when Nick Wayne tries to go for the chops, and then Katsuyori is just like literally like, bro, hold up, let me show you what to do. Bah! I love it.
That was definitely a fun moment. I do need to point out though that Nick Wayne kind of neckbreaker that he did, it just looked very strange to me.
That was inventive. That was very inventive. That was a new way of doing it, but you saw Shibata's head go right off the canvas, which I was like, ooh, this is a man with brain injuries. That's not good. No.
We just got him back, Nick. Come on.
What about you, Andrew?
My first impression when I saw that this was the first match, because I hadn't looked at the card prior to actually watching the event, and I was surprised to see Nick Wayne in there kind of competing for the title, mostly having seen him obviously do his work with Darby Allin. And so I wasn't very sure about it, but it was the perfect storytelling for having that reaction, because by the end of it, was like, okay, they sold this very well. He is someone who's not just new to professional wrestling as at that level, but new to that style. Um, and I thought between the two of them, they did a really good job of kind of putting this match together. I thought Wayne did a good job for his style and for his experience. Obviously, it was, the ending was the right move. And so, I thought it was great. I thought they both worked well together. And every time I see him, he's in there, just making me enjoy his work more and more from Nick Wayne, and Shibata is just stellar. So
Awesome. I will say one quick thing on that also. I don't know if you caught on commentary. They've on AEW TV, they won't name them this way, but Caprice Coleman called out that they're called the Hung Bucks. That for the trios title thing. So they actually announced it on ROH. They're giving it legitimacy, which is huge to do on that. It's not part of the match itself, but like commentary tonight was on point with a lot of this stuff. So I thought this is really like close to being my match of the night. It was an amazing thing overall. I think it's a great introduction to both of you coming into this as well, seeing this and seeing how it can be done, and seeing someone new at it. So like Nick Wayne's your way in. So that was kind of a fun way to pick that up. So we moved on from there to a promo then from Lee Johnson, who gets interrupted by Lee Moriarty and Shane Taylor, who are basically going off of what happened last week, bringing up the fact they have a match tonight and that he's just not got it. So I don't know if this was needed for the evening. I mean, it didn't take too long, but it was just kind of like there to kind of set up the match, I guess. It seemed kind of forced.
It existed. To me, it served its purpose. But the best part about the promo was Lexi's face when Lee Moriarty said, "I know I look good," and when he was trying to shake Lee Johnson's hand and said, "I promise it's clean." Lexi's face made that whole promo. Like aside from that, it was just kind of meh. It was there. It existed.
It's funny. I have it later on when we get to see more with Lexi. She's one of the personnel outside of the wrestlers that I've really come to enjoy from Ring of Honor. And just her interactions with everybody else is phenomenal. But I did feel like this promo was pretty much, it was kind of giving us more of the same as the one they did last week. It kind of just informed us of what was going to come later in the night, but, I'm happy it wasn't any longer than it was.
Didn't need to be an all. And you're right, Andrew. We've said it multiple times. Lexi and Renee are some of the best interviewers in the business right now. AEW has some of the best backstage interviewers, minus Alex Marvez, that you can definitely get. And poor Alex Marvez, who just can't catch a break because he's not good. But we move on from there to one of Mikey and my favorite wrestlers to watch in a big squash match with Diamante taking on Carly Bright, I believe was the name of the wrestler there.
Katie Bright.
Katie Bright. Sorry, I might have terrible handwriting.
No, I only knew because when I first wrote it down, I thought I wrote Caddy Bree, and I was confused for a second.
Caddy Bree. This was Diamante working her style of like she's got hard hitting big person blows and like bruiser style in a pint-sized package, and she took it to her. Gave her a couple hope spots, but really this was a quick, easy way to showcase Diamante back on top.
That inverted face buster will always be a fun thing to watch from Diamante. Just like, I was like, well, okay. Yeah. Listen, I'm never
is she doing the crossroads now? Is she doing the crossroads? Is that what it is?
I mean, sure, why not? I mean, I don't care. Look, I'm never going to complain when Diamante is on my TV screen. Okay. And then we got her other half later in the episode against one of my other favorite. Listen, it was just a fun night for women's wrestling on Ring of Honor.
100%.
We got 4 matches and one of my favorite segments ever.
But first, so you're watching the Diamante match,
and I watched the match. My first thought was Mikey's going to love this. Absolutely, it was a clear squash. That's it. It served its purpose. But I did like that they highlighted Katie Bright was a local talent from the Pittsburgh area.
Katie Bright.
Katie Bright. I like that they brought in local talent and alluded to that as well.
Yeah, it's something that I enjoy from AEW, and it seems to be going the same way with Ring of Honor, is even when you have a match where it's clear who's going to be, the one that comes out on top, they still give them moments to kind of get some offense, to get a chance to show some stuff, to like get them that work in the ring other than just taking all the action. So it was good to see that. It was kind of what I expected when I saw who was going to be going against Diamante. Um, and it was interesting too because I noticed this later on. Mikey, you brought up about the fact that Martinez was in later on in the card, but I found it interesting that Diamante came out by herself, but then came out with Martinez later on for her match, and so I was just like, because I knew they were kind of together, working together, and so I expected to see them together for when Diamante came out, but she didn't come out with her, so I just thought that was interesting.
The master does not come out for the student. The master only comes out for their own things. The student must follow and learn. I mean, isn't that the way you teach in college at this point, or is it?
No, isn't that the whole like teaching from the front or leading from the front, leading from the back kind of thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so. We move on. We're going quick through these. There's so much to get through tonight. But we had and a great little promo with the infantry who are going absolutely bonkers. And Willie Mack is back on our screens. And this is a trio I didn't know I needed, but I needed.
I love seeing Willie Mack. And again, I'm paying attention to not just the words they said, because a lot of the promos are fluff and nonsense, and I get that. But again, Willie Mack's face he made when he got called the Big Mac attack was hilarious. Like, it just made me start laughing right out loud. I was like, okay, I like this promo purely for that. If he made me laugh, it's more than likely I'm going to be happy with it.
And Willie Mack will always make you laugh. But this one, I think, do you agree with me on this? It felt more pointed and at least had like a through line more than the Lee Johnson one did.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was it was good to see them kind of like build up more of this because obviously the infantry, the three of them were with a door in there too. They're really well established together, and to bring in Willie Mack to kind of build up that trios to be able to go after the 6-man title, was interesting. So it's nice to see them do more than just throw them together. And it was funny because when they came out for the match and the infantry was in all their yellow gear with black highlights, and Willie Mack didn't come out with them. He came out on his own. I was like, he needs to come out in black gear with yellow highlights, and he did. And so I like those little nods that they throw together to have them out there. Carly Bravo has got a really good, energy to him. He kind of brings some comedy as well, and so I think he's a good mix with Willie Mack as well. And even though he can be pretty funny, he can go. Willie Mack can go. So it was good to see them in that promo together and kind of sell themselves.
I felt like it picked the energy back up quickly enough after the last match. It didn't just like let it lull, which then brought us into our next match, which was a kind of up and down affair for the most part. I kind of the right person in the storyline won, but Lee Johnson versus Lee Moriarty, you kind of knew was going to be very high flying, very good. One thing I'll bring up before we get into this was I did notice that both of them, because their styles are quite similar, they would do the mirroring, but they would showcase Moriarty being more taunting and kind of like heelish out there, whereas Johnson would do the same move, but he'd pick up and keep going, keep the work rate up. And it was really cool to see them play with that, where they're so evenly balanced, but their approach to the match was different.
No, I'd agree with that. I enjoyed the Lee Squared match. It was definitely an athletic showing there. To me, again, coming in new, this is being my second episode I've watched. There wasn't a very clear winner from the beginning, and I enjoy that because again, that brings me more into the story and the narrative that they're telling in the ring when I don't know who's going to win, and it's not a simple squash, or they've already set something up down the line, so they're not going to compromise that.
Well, that doesn't happen on this show at all.
No, never.
Never.
I was a little sad to see another Blue Thunder Bomb get kicked out of. It just seems to be the trend for 2020s.
No. It's since the move was invented, it is the least devastating move in all of sports entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that.
Yeah, it can never work. Even avalanche ones don't work.
But I will say, even though what's his name, Shane Taylor was out there, I was happy to not have a shenanigan finish.
I think that's what I was going to bring up too, is the fact that Moriarty won this match clean, no shenanigans, no schmoz to it. I was like, okay, I kind of dig it. Also, I'm going to say this every time he wrestles. Tiger Style is still one of my favorite entrances. I don't care what nobody says. I love that theme
Mikey,
music.
Mikey, you seem to have a lot of hills you want to die on for this. I don't care what nobody says. I don't want to do this. I'm going to make a point here, and everyone agrees with you.
I still want to see Shane Taylor in the Tiger Style mask, though.
Me
Well,
too.
he wears it on the entrance, but yeah, I don't know. I also enjoy his neck bridge when he gets out of that pin and he just stays there.
Yeah, I was. One of my notes is I was surprised by the clean finish, especially with Shane Taylor being out there, and kind of the way they've been interacting with Lee Johnson. I also felt like Moriarty, and obviously it's the comparison to Lee Johnson, but Moriarty felt big. Like he felt much bigger than Lee Johnson to me, and he also like when he hit his moves, they just felt meaner. So I thought that was a really good dynamic between the two performers, especially the history of Lee Johnson and kind of being a kind of the cleaner, nicer performer. So it was kind of that kind of complementary styles. Um, I am interested to see where they're going to go with this Shane Taylor production or promotion. Are they going to continue to try and bring Lee Johnson in? It does feel similar to some of the other storylines that are going on, like the Maria Kanellis story of trying to put together her army.
Wait,
Don
is Lee Moriarty
Callis.
trying to sleep with Maria?
No. I mean, that's a whole other
He's still
storyline.
over
But
the Mongols.
just the different people trying to build their factions and farming out to find these other performers. It just seems like there's a lot of those going on. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of build this up and where they go with it with Shane Taylor.
It's funny you bring that up because I really enjoyed this where like a lot of times in other companies, factions will appear out of nowhere, or like it's a 1 week build. This has been like kind of cool to watch them slowly, like the genesis of this as they grab more people and try people out and do things. So I'm with you on that. It's very interesting to see the multiple of them kind of all coalescing at the same time as if there's something coming from it, hopefully.
I'm going to reserve my judgment on that because I need to see how it plays out. I like the idea of the slow build into a faction, but if the faction just forms and does nothing, what was the point? So I'm going to reserve my judgment on that. And I had another thought in line with that because Maria Kanellis keeps coming out and let me watch this person's match to see if they'd be a fit. I feel like we should have Tony Khan coming out and doing that for the people's like first appearance and be like, maybe I'll give them a contract just to add that much more pressure onto the match.
It'd be interesting to see, or Jerry Lynn or Stokely
Yeah.
or someone in power there would be great to have that with. You're right. Just kind of give that little bit there. Usually you can tell for the most part, like when Rachel Ellering debuted or anything else, like if they have a big enough name and they've been around it for a bit, you can tell if they're going to give them a contract. But yeah, building that in so people watching would have it would be interesting. We move on though from that interesting match that was kind of fun to watch to one of my favorite promos of the night, Minion training happening with both Lexi and Billy Starks. I was so happy.
My moment
This was one of
this
the
episode.
best segments of the night.
The whistle, the different shirts.
The fact that you can watch Billy like laughing and giggling and smiling through it, she's having such a good time. The bit with the gum was a little gross, but also was kind of very funny. And then the two ending lines, which was the congratulations, your minion bestie, and Billy, you still suck. I was like, okay, this just the whole segment to me was so much fun.
And the playing into the Billy don't laugh stuff, because you watch so many interactions and she's clearly just like dying. And so that whole like, don't laugh, stop laughing. The segment really got Billy growing on me. And every time I see her coming out there, I think they're building her up in a really, really fun way. And her character performance is just super entertaining and engaging.
I honestly, you could tell how much fun they were having with it between Billy corpsing the whole time, Willow corpsing when they got her on screen. Like everyone is having a good time with this thing. I'm so happy, and Mikey, you and I talked about this, that they didn't pull the trigger on having Athena Billy happen at All Out or they were going to do it at Grand Slam or All Out, one of the two, like have that blow off. This has been better to keep it growing, keep moving. This is now better. I'm saying it here. I'm going to die on this hill, Mikey. This is better than Adam Cole and MJF.
No, I 100% agree. And I said so as much on Dynamite.
I mean, I know with these segments they have a certain limit on them for how long, but I would be happy if this at least went to Full Gear.
Yeah, easily bring it to Full Gear.
You know what? I could see this getting to Full Gear, and if not, we technically have what's the end of the year one? Final Battle, right? Yeah, Final Battle
Yes,
is
Final Battle is the final of the year. That's in December, right?
It's usually
That's
December is
Wait, I
Final
thought that was
Battle. So I
December to
would see
December.
I would love to see it at Final Battle. I think that'd be
So
great.
here's my question for you: do you think that Billy ends up costing Athena the title, or does it build to the breakup and Billy challenging for the title?
I think Billy is still young enough in her career. They're not going to push her to be the champion yet. I think there's going to be something where she's going to cost Athena the title, and then at Final Battle, they have their blow up thing where the minion show me that what you've done, and Athena gets hers finally.
Who do you think Athena will drop the title to then?
Willow.
Yes.
Yeah, that was my thought too.
It's going to be Willow.
Listen, after Death Before Dishonor, it can be nobody else but Willow, in my opinion.
That isn't unless
Uh-huh.
some people from the releases may show up somewhere, or
I mean, okay, I'm trying to think.
Mercedes could do it if she's taking the AEW Women's title. Aaliyah could do it. Yeah, definitely, obviously.
Aaliyah?
Yujinichi, maybe.
I would love to. Aaliyah would great. I'm gonna save that for SmackDown. All I will say though, again, this whole entire segment made me laugh. I loved it. L- This goes to what Andrew's point that he mentioned earlier about Lexi. The fact that she's all in on this segment too, and just the way has the minion shirt, she has the poof like ponytail situation going on.
Oh, yeah.
Again, when they got to Willow with Athena walking by, she looks at Willow, turns back to face forward, looks at her, gives her the mean mug, turns again, and then they start booing and they walk. It's like Willow's like, "What did I do? What did I do? I love you, girl." This whole segment,
honestly,
yep.
This was the best part of the night. I wish it had been a little later in the night to give us a little more of a rise, but this was really fun to do. And we move on from that into another women's match, which I'm very happy to see, which was a hard-hitting affair between Mercedes Martinez and Trish Adora, and Double Diamante for the evening.
I mean, I'm not going to complain, but the Puerto Rican badass is on my television screen. Mercedes Martinez.
And Diamante doesn't know how to walk down as a second to anybody. She's like,
No.
I don't know where to be, and I don't know how to celebrate, and I'm kind of weird.
And then, of course, you have Mercedes going up against one of my other favorites in Ring of Honor, Miss Trish Adora. I love Trish so much. God, I love this match. This is great.
For me, this was the absolute hardest hitting match of the night, even more so than the pure championship match, which was interesting, but I loved to see it. I was very concerned and scared for Trish after that discus forearm that Mercedes threw, because that came really close. I thought she would have been knocked out cold there. And the bridging German from the knees, just the amount of strength it takes to pull that off was incredibly impressive. And again, that sleeper, like I said, always is going to look cool.
Yeah, I thought Adora looked really strong in this. They really made it a back and forth match, and I think by her looking really strong as an opponent, it made Martinez win that much better. And I had the same thing. I have it down here about that basement bridging suplex. It was crazy. Like to be able to hit that for both of them was impressive.
That was my move of the night, right there.
Oh, absolutely. And for me, I love that the post match too, Mercedes would not let up from that submission hold, and
no,
it's like, no, I'm holding on to this, and then Trish just folding like a lawn chair when she gets let go.
She is so flexible, and that's what makes that move so much more devastating. Is when someone can take that so well and bend all the way back. It's crazy. But we weren't done with the women there. We weren't done with this. We weren't done with two women's matches. Amazing promo, because we went straight into Athena and her minion versus Angelina Love out of nowhere.
I forgot that Angelina Love was part of Ring of Honor. And like I said off camera, we got a double dose of Angelina Love this week.
Former women's champion Angelina Love.
That part I forgot too.
Where they're taking on ROH. ROH is now taking on where Impact was. They're bringing back all the greats again. So,
yeah,
boys, what did you think?
It was. I thought I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised by Angelina Love. I think being a vet and having done, gone through so many years, Athena's a great performer. She's super strong, super fast. And, they were able to work to each other's strength. And I think it was a better match than I expected when I saw them coming out. And the finish, that finishing combo that Athena hit, because she wasn't able to hit her finish from the top because she got distracted by the minion, got caught up on the ropes, but then she hit what was it, like a cradle. It was a move I've never seen her do before.
It was like a shoulder roll off code breaker.
Yeah,
It was beautiful. But we need to find a name for this move.
I went and checked to see. I was like, is that something she does? I had to like look through her finishers and do all that stuff. But
No.
it was great. I loved it. It looked
Athena
great.
is always adding to her arsenal every time she has these matches. I'm like, Athena, you can also pull this out. Every single match is something new. I'm like, this
Yeah.
again, Athena is still at the top of my list for best women's wrestler for me of 2023.
I would like to see her keep that move and make that her main finish. I feel like it needs to be protected and we need to push it, because it always scares me when a wrestler's main move, their main signature finisher move, is off the top rope, because that really hurts their longevity in the long run. So they won't be around for very long because of all the high risk and all the impact with it. So I'd really like to see them protect this move and push it so we can keep Athena for a very long time, because she's such an incredible performer.
Well, on top of the fact that her finisher is an off the top rope stunner, so her spine is getting compacted every time she does it.
She's going to get shorter as the years go on.
Oh no. And she's going to end up like Stone Cold Steve Austin, where she can't walk.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy.
We all saw that WrestleMania match.
I also thought that, Angelina Love versus Athena did a better heel versus heel dynamic than Toni Storm Saraya from the night before. Like they knew how to work it better and really play up who was kind of the heel and not, and who really was a heel. I mean, pulling Billy in the way and like attacking Billy Starks on the side just to piss off Athena was awesome.
And it was great storytelling for
good,
the whole Athena Billy thing too,
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly that. It keeps the storyline going, which I really appreciate. I want to back up to the beginning of the match.
Backing up. Okay.
Yeah, back up. Because the entrance with Athena and Billy was absolutely hilarious. You kept, Billy, no, you're in the way. You need to stand over here. Stop smiling. It was just so much fun, especially coming off of the promo we had with Minion training. It was hilarious, and it pulled me right into it.
She pulls up Penn State pom-poms.
I loved it. And then Athena like showing Billy is like going up to this random security guard that was there, and Billy trying was adorable.
And then finally, I loved the last image, which was Billy presenting Athena with the whistle. Like, here it is. I couldn't tell what it was until got up to her, but I'm like, oh yeah, they really are starting to bond. And once Athena's like facade comes down just a little bit is when they're going to turn them, and Billy's going to have to fight her.
I'd love to see
It's going to be good. I could have ended ROH there. That would have been a great place to. I mean, yes, there was another match that was my match of the night that came up later, but at that point, I was like, okay, good. That's a great way to end it. It would have been fun.
And then,
unfortunately, we have to get to Griff Garrison and Maria and create a Wrestler 7. Work for me.
It's just weird. Get it off my screen. I don't want to see it. I don't like it. It served the purpose of the will he show, won't he show for their tag match, but get it off my screen.
Poor Griff Garrison.
It's no secret that Cole Carter is not necessarily my favorite.
He's no one's favorite. Oh, sorry. He's probably Anthony Henry's favorite.
Yeah, I have to watch him on Collision.
The Disposables.
Oh my God. Don't do Griff Garrison like that. Again, we talked about this last
Griff,
week.
Cole.
Well, Cole is. Oh no. Again, I hate this. Cole Carter needs to get off my television screen. That's just it. And yeah,
I don't need like a walking Pornhub advertisement there in Cole Carter, because this is just basically what he is now.
It's.
We're giving too much to this promo that didn't need it. Maria basically sets up that Griff is going to be looked at, and it's just
final thoughts. I hated it. We're moving on.
Me too.
Because we're on to I believe. My
Layla,
favorite match of the night.
and Layla Hirsch and the Renegades versus the team of Willow Nightingale, Sky Blue, and my girl Kiera Hogan.
Oh my gosh, this was way too much fun. And it was well paced, well put through. Seeing, Kira not have to take all of the aggression in the beginning. The Renegades did their part, and seeing Sky Blue literally get completely crapped upon. Willow Nightingale run roughshod, and Sky Blue gets the win. Like you don't have to. You got everybody's thing in. It was great, and Layla took the loss without taking the loss. Maria lost it. Like Maria had a bad night for all the people she was trying to get in her army tonight. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, Layla being on the losing end of her team is just like, oh, okay, well,
I feel like we're gonna have Layla attacking the Renegades this week and like taking them down one by one.
I mean, I'm not against it.
This match could have done without the mommy dearest interaction. I am not a fan of that. But aside from that, I loved this match. This was my match of the night. I didn't know who the Renegades were coming into this. I need to see more of them. I was very impressed by them.
Oh, Jesse.
What?
Oh, Jesse. I'll take you back a couple weeks. I was surprised how well they did in this because they haven't been doing tag team a lot lately, but they have had some rough weeks over the last couple weeks. I was surprised.
Well, I mean, they lost, but I didn't think this was a rough week. I thought they both had a great showing.
The last couple of weeks have been rough. Either they had a singles match or a tag team match. It's been it was a rough go.
Well, apparently they worked some kinks out because I was very impressed by them tonight, and I want to see more of them. And I think my two favorite moments were, first off, Willow's pounce this week, much better than last week, much more impressive. And I don't know the announcer's name, forgive me for that, but the Labyrinth reference when he said Willow, the babe with the power, that got me completely. I was all on board for that. That made me happy inside.
Hello.
Welcome back to the world.
Thank you. I had for some reason my home internet. Oh, was
that
it
was
you?
me on Sunday.
We
can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I had to connect to my own my personal hotspot. I don't know why my house internet wasn't giving me the right coverage, so it was fine on Sunday. Today, not so
please
good,
give us
but...
power to power our boxes and make the internet happen.
Yes. All right.
Everyone's home watching Rampage.
Oh, I mean, stay tuned for Saturday for my review of a 2-hour Rampage.
So,
great.
Andrew, I would love your thoughts on. We've all said this was our match of the night, which was the 6-woman tag between Layla Hirsch and the Renegades versus Willow Nightingale, Kiera Hogan, and Sky Blue.
I thought it was interesting because I was thinking about how Hogan and Blue. I mean, obviously they had matching gear. When they were in the ring together, they seemed to work really well as a tag team. And Caprice at one point actually mentioned that they looked really good together. And I had this thought earlier in the night. I feel like between AEW and Ring of Honor, there's so many strong women performers. I feel like there needs to be another, like maybe it's a tag title or something like that. Like Impact has the Knockouts tag team championships, or they did. I don't know. Yeah. I think there needs to be something else like that so they can actually use them and promote them and give them storylines outside of like, hey, let's have another 6-woman tag, match. And the two of them look great together. Willow, every time I see her, it's just, she's fun, energetic, happy, but at the same time can be a beast. And I think she had great opportunities throughout the entire match to just play into that role. She's such a powerhouse. There was something that I noticed that there was a mix-up at one point. The Renegades were in, and Robin was the legal performer on her side. She tagged her sister. They did this kind of like snapmare, then a running neck breaker kind of thing. And then Robin went for the cover, but she had tagged out and wasn't the one that was actually legal. Nobody else seemed to notice except for Charlotte, right? She had this weird look on her face where she was standing there looking at the cover and then was like, okay. and got out of the ring. And so it was funny because, story wise, watching it, it meant that every other person wasn't legal when the rest of the match happened because the proper tags weren't happening. But it was just one of those continuity things that I was like, hey, wait a minute. And it was kind of that like throwback to the Killer Bees back in the day. The twin tag team kind of thing going on, mix up tags, who's legal, who's not. But this was one that seemed like it wasn't planned and nobody seemed to notice. So it was just a little thing that I saw in the match.
I like to believe in the scary head that I live in, that was on purpose and that they're just trying to make the ref seem aloof, and I loved that. I do have a follow up question for you though about Sky Blue and Kira Hogan. What would you name their tag team?
I was thinking about it. One of the first things that came to my mind was something like Blue Fire or something. Something that ties into the things that they both have, because Kiera Hogan used to wear the whole like red and orange kind of fiery style, and now she's gone. She's still got all the same patterns, but it's now the blue tones. So something in that vein, I think, would be good.
I feel like you could do propane because that's all blue flame there. You could make it a nice big thing of propane type of thing.
The
But it'd
fact
be
that you
like-
needed to put on an accent.
It'd be PRO
I'm gonna say it should be Blue Hogan.
PAIN.
Yes, propane.
I think they already had that in another promotion. I'm saying it should be Blue Hogan, and they should all come out as Mr. America with the handlebar mustache.
But if it's
Oh,
Blue
God.
Hogan, they have to be walked to the ring by Blue Cane.
oh no.
And we can get Glacier back.
Oh God, no! We're going too far down the hole. Let's get out of that first and go to another promo where I laughed out loud at this one. I'm sorry, just seeing how far down the rabbit hole Tony Nese has gone, where he's telling SAP what to do with this, and Helico is just vibing, and Serpentico is just calling him so many. It's so good.
As soon as Serpentico said pinche culo, I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm done for the night.
This Serpentico is just unhinged, and I love it so much.
I think
so
their tag team. I hadn't seen them tagging up together until recently, and Serpentico is just such a fun performer. When he was with Luther and all the shenanigans that they did, and I've
The human
loved
javelin?
Angelico since. Oh God, yeah. Just how many ways can you use your partner to hurt your opponents? And then Helico's always been entertaining since I first saw him back in Lucha Underground. And the two of them together are because he's such a good performer, and Helico is just like he knows how to work with luchadors, but he also has that great catch style. So the two of them together are just so entertaining and so funny. I don't think they're ever going to win a tag team title, but they're always going to have entertaining moments when you see them.
They would be the ones if you had hardcore tag titles back in 90s WWE. They'd be the hardcore tag champions over and over and over again. But this promo was quick to the point. It set up everything we needed for later on, which I was really excited to see how this would go. Don't come out till I tell you, which we know wasn't going to happen. And Tony Nese being complete and utter S-head. It's wonderful. And then we move on to, I didn't take a lot of notes on this because I was actually watching to see how Ethan Page would do, but Ethan Page versus VSK was harder hitting than I thought it would be, and really
That
well
part.
put together. I mean, the only thing that got me was that in his new attire, Ethan Page looks like a more handsome QT Marshall. But other than that, it was really, really fun.
It still says ego, though, doesn't it?
It does say all ego, yeah.
Even though he's moving to no ego.
Exactly.
Ego.
He's all id now.
Oh my gosh.
He's not super ego.
Well, eventually he's
No.
going to become super ego, and then that will be his final
Exactly.
transformation.
So the extended handshake in the beginning made me giggle, of course. He's just holding onto his hand. That made me laugh. For me, it was a fun match. It wasn't a whole lot of frills to it. It definitely was hard hitting. But that cradle slam that he had at the end, it was just funny. He's just holding him obnoxiously long. To me, that made me giggle.
VSK sold really well for him, too. I was very happy to see that.
Ethan Page's slingshot cutter will always get me to scream at my television. And then after the match, too, it made me laugh even more because Ethan Page goes while VSK is just dying on the floor. Then he goes over and then shakes the hand violently again. Ethan Page is a national treasure. I love him.
I feel like Ethan Page, I'm hoping that they're going to build to something big with him. And I feel like he'd be a great person to go up for. I mean, they'd have to. It's Joe's got the Ring of Honor TV title now, right? They'd have to get it off of Joe, but I feel like that's a great title to put on Page at some point. If you can build him up to that, I think what they're trying to do with him, they're using him way better than they had in AEW.
Maybe even a finals match of the TV title tournament where him versus Dalton Castle will be very interesting. So I feel like you can. He's got places to go and grow his character back. He's really, even as we get to the promo later on, he seems genuinely like he's actually fully invested in this now, and he's really coming off very genuine with what he wants to do. So I'm very happy with what they're doing with him. Let him grow again, get back up there. We need more Ethan Page on our internet TV screens. But then we come to our match set up by the previous promo with Spanish Announce Project and Tony Nese versus oh my god, so this was the harder one. This is Vikingo, and it was Gravity, and it was Metalik, and this is the one where Vikingo ended up in a wheelchair for a day because he almost broke his hip and was out of the match the entire time. But apparently he's fine. He's going to make the rest of his dates, is what I read today. He's back up and walking.
That was the first note I took. Is it's like, where'd he go? He did that awesome corkscrew off of the top rope, and then he's like, and he's down, and he's gone.
Yeah, he landed on his hip, and apparently they thought he broke his hip. He was wheelchaired out of the arena and was immobile for 3 days. And now he's finally walking around and gets like, yeah, I'll make the rest of my dates. It's like, you're going to kill yourself. He's already working with a busted shoulder. Like, take some time and actually heal.
Well, especially with his style, the spots that he hits and everything. And I mean, he's phenomenal. He's definitely one of the top of this generation of performers. But it's like when you're already that busted, like don't do more. I did think that he came up a little short on that move. There, he was obviously closer to the ring than he was to Nice, but it also felt a bit like Nice didn't quite adjust to it to catch him.
Didn't.
So no blame either way. It's a risky spot. Both guys are out there doing what they can, but it definitely felt like it was just a misstep on both sides.
Very much so, but it definitely set. I could watch Serpentico had come around at that point too. He was conversing with Vikingo and getting it over to the ref, so there was good communication. And it seemed like Gravity and Metalik were like fine, just filling in. But you could tell there were a couple places where they're like, okay, we're just going to throw thrust kicks until we can figure out what the hell we're doing here because we don't know where we are. But overall, this was a really fun match, and it started off well with Tony Nese running down Penn State and College Station. Like it was so much fun to see him come out and do that and get interrupted.
He's
So
so
great.
good at just generating that cheap heat, and it comes off as genuine. Like it's not canned for him. It's just he wants to be that person every time he comes out, and it works for him.
And people are getting up and stretching and doing it with him now. Like I love it.
So I had to write this down because this was the moment during Tony Nese's like initial beginning promo before Angelico and Serpentico came out, and I had to pause. So I was just like, "Oh my god, he actually said that." So he's like, "And ladies, it's not the freshman 15. It's more like you're the freshman 50." I'm like, Jesus Christ, Tony Nese, holy shit! I had to
That
pause.
was a great line.
That was a great line, but I had to pause. I was just like, "Did I really hear that?" I had to wind back. He actually said it. Paused it again. Oh my god, I don't know. I'm impressed the fact that he put that in there. I'm also like, oh my god, you are a P you are a POS
Yeah.
Tony Nese, and I'm kind of
He's
here for it for his character.
I also can't get this out of my head now after Riccaboni said that Angelico looks like Jamiroquai. And I was like, oh my God, he needs the hat and he's fully Jamiroquai. And I was like, oh, yes.
Well,
Of course.
I will never not see that now.
He had the hat prior. It just wasn't fluffy.
He had the hat?
He had the
Oh, jeez.
Kangol hat that wasn't fluffy.
I kid you not, you guys. Angelico is like one aviator goggles like mask away from being like a 90s raver.
He's like in a Puff Daddy like video somewhere. It's
Exactly.
just crazy.
Okay, listen, I loved it so much. And Helico just doing the Weekend at Bernie's dance. Just the entrance is just like him and Prince Nana need to have a dance off right now.
There was a really fun moment that they had in there when Nice went to try and remove Gravity's mask, and Serpentico actually came in and stopped him, and he's like, "No, we don't do that." Like, And it was great storytelling into like the respect and rules of luchadors masks. And then they talked about it in the beginning when Serpentico went in there against I think it was Metalik, just kind of like being from that lucha background. So I liked how they threw that in there, and it kept Serpentico and Helico kind of in that, like they're still the fun, happy guys that you want to root for, even if they're teaming with Nice.
Until they take a brutal senton from Metalik at the end. Like, he landed hard way on that one.
I did like Serpentico and Angelico, excuse me, their synchronized dives outside
Oh
in the
my-
beginning of the match. That was beautiful.
They work very well together.
And to your point, Andrew, there about the showing the respect, it really helped with the story in the point where Nice just was abandoned at the end, and we got the right finish for that.
But yeah, that senton from Metalik coming down, he landed like 3 inches too short and like back bent over his chest. And
Yeah.
that looked brutal.
Yeah, he landed hard.
Yeah, he landed flat just
Hard.
across him, just solid.
Oh. But this was a great match going through the like, honestly, if Vikingo hadn't gotten hurt, and I'm pretty sure Vikingo was supposed to be in on the end, it would have been a stellar match. Might have been my match of the night because of that. But yeah, like, I'm glad he's mobile and didn't break the hip. He just bruised it. But he needs to like take a week and like don't do 17 other matches. Heal your shoulder, heal your hip. Let's go from there, because we need you for the next couple of years. You and your giant Mandalorian style Viking helmet.
Seriously, since we're talking about Vikingo, as a random side note, I need to find a way to watch the Defy Wrestling event happening in Washington, because it was announced that Vikingo and Swerve will be having a match, and I need to kind of see that.
Well, how is Swerve going to survive Adam Page? Like, how is that going to happen?
Oh, Swerve's winning. That's in my head. Swerve needs to win at Wrestle Dream. Hangman Page doesn't need to. Do we have to talk about? Well, okay. Before we get to the next match, I actually like the Ethan Page.
This is what I was talking about. The very genuine, very real. Like, this sounded like Ethan Page the person, not Ethan Page the performer. Because he teared up near it too. Like, he was actually very like emotionally invested in this, which I loved.
Hey, the only notes I have on that promo are it was good and heartfelt. It was very genuine.
And this solidified Lexi as my favorites, because she did. I feel like that last bit was off script, and I'm like, Lexi, I love you even more now.
It was so good. Then we had Griff Garrison and Creator Wrestler 7 versus Action Andretti and Darius Martin, which is like, we got to get them on. They're like our contractually obligated Martin and Andretti match of the
next. Night. It's like, I hated it. No, next. I'm just kidding.
All we got was Griff Garrison not wanting to cheat the way they did, getting in trouble with Maria having the third loss of the night, and Creator Wrestler 7 did stuff, I think. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't remember.
It was a blur. Like, I don't know. There were cutaways.
Yeah, I've got to rely on my notes here because I tried to block this one out from memory. The best line was Griff Garrison, who body language even clearly shows he does not want to be there. He does not want to be a part of that. It shows. But when he shouted, "We don't cheat," that was good. Aside from that, the only comment that I really have that I feel is important is that Cole Carter sucks all of the energy and interest out of the room. You could hear the crowd pretty much, would you say, corpse?
Yo, full corpse, yeah.
As soon as they hit the ring. So
yeah,
why is he here?
When I saw Griff Garrison make his Ring of Honor debut, I was so excited. I think he's someone who's got incredible, like, natural ability. He's a really solid performer, and it was funny because when I saw him debut, I was like, I feel like they need to find him a really good tag team partner, because he could build a phenomenal tag team with someone. And I was like, oh, obviously they're going to put him with Carter. I didn't really know much about Cole Carter. And then just seeing this, not only does it not seem like they're going to go that route, but it just doesn't feel like that's the right mix. I want to see something from Griff Garrison. I think he's got some phenomenal style to that throwback style. They obviously try to do that with the Varsity Blondes. But with Action Andretti and Darius Martin, every time I see them, all I ever think is, I can't wait for Top Flight to come back. And I think the three of them will make a phenomenal trios. But it just makes me miss the fact that we don't get to see Top Flight work as a tag team.
We haven't since they debuted because either one of the brothers has been out with an injury and it's been major and everything else. I can't wait for the Darius Martin on a pole match between Action Andretti and Dante. That'll be fun.
Who gets custody?
Exactly. But speaking to your point about tag team, I was a little bit on the other side of this. I was like, I don't think poor Griff that they're sticking him in another tag team situation again after he just came off RC Blondes and we're going to give him a shot as a singles wrestler. Like, how are you going to fill the shoes of Brian Pillman? You're not. So let Griff be a single star for once. Like, actually let him get in that mold because he doesn't need to be stuck on a diving boat with, you know, the guy that can't like lick the boots of anybody in WWE or, you know, anything else, who basically wears like the black tights of your goth boyfriend from, you know, freshman year of college.
I wasn't have to read my diaries. You look at me when you say that.
I had to look into your eyes for it. It was great.
How'd you know that was my freshman experience? No, I'm just kidding.
Mikey, if it was yours, I'd be very surprised.
Why are you reading my diaries, JBL?
Andrew, by the way, you'll have to mail me your diary after this. I have to read all of them. It's part of my contract with doing this. So
It's on my blog.
yeah. Oh, perfect. Yeah, I can. It's on your live journal because I can read that. Pretty
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
it's like, is it on live journal?
But overall, this match probably didn't need to happen. We could have left it with like a backstage promo that would have gone fine. And justice for Griff Garrison. Let's get him somewhere else away from this whole incest storyline that we don't need.
You know, maybe put him with you know, a good veteran who had his style that can, because I feel like there just needs to be some storyline with Griff that enables him to build up. Because right now he's just a really good young athlete, and I want to see more from him, story and character wise too.
Yeah. I feel like if you want to turn him heel, stick him with Mark Sterling like Tony Nese and have him go down that road. Or if you want to keep him babyface, honestly, have him work in that like kind of like Ricky Steamboat like esque style where there's because he has a bit of jump. So you can have him like be hard hitting technical, but he's definitely a technical wrestler. Not to the pure rules style yet,
Yeah.
but he could be in that run.
What about QT Marshall? I'm just kidding.
The new Latin lover? No, thanks.
My thought is, if we're going for story and story thread, have something where Julia Hart contacts him and corrupts him and brings him into the House of Black.
Do you think he'd work well with House of Black?
I think it would help him to get the experience of working with those three.
Or just going up against them in some respect. Because you can have Julia Hart play on his heartstrings where he's trying to rescue her and he keeps getting batted down by them.
It certainly would be an interesting storyline and much better than the Mommy Dearest storyline going on now.
Problem is you got to put him up on AEW and he's not there yet. He's on ROH again. So well, that is definitely somewhere where he needs to get to. I feel like there's going to be something down the line for it. But in ROH, I think they need to build him up, get him a couple squash matches that he can showcase his style and then stick him in the pure rules and market for now and get him like, you know, technically sound. But now we move away from the worst match of the night and we get to a match that, while fun to watch and really well put together and well timed, was a foregone conclusion before we got to this thing because we already knew what was announced as on the card for, and they did bring this up on commentary where there had been a change before. I think this was an ROH championship match. I forget who it was, but they had said like, you know, it changed in that day, 2 days ahead of time. They had to change the match over. That wasn't going to happen. They weren't going to have the Mogul Embassy lose the trios tag titles to a cobbled together team, unfortunately, even as good as they were.
I think that's what bugged me about this is the fact that I was like, Mogul Embassy is about to fight, looks at the clock, in like 30 minutes on the Grand Slam Rampage against the Hung Bucks. And I'm just like, they still have their title. So obviously, you know, Ring of Honor got taped way before this. So
the Saturday before.
Yeah, I was I still thought it was fun, but man,
It was a small
spoiled
thing.
the ending, but I still thought it was a fun match. I just love watching Willie Mack. He's so explosive, so fun to watch. And I'm renaming his splash off the top. It's going to be the Bullfrog Splash just because of the size of him.
What about you, Andrew? You had something there?
One of the small things, it's funny because it was bugging me every time I saw them come out together, and it changed this time, was Cage actually wore his title belt.
Yeah.
A lot of their other appearances, he wasn't wearing it. Prince Nana was carrying it for some reason, but he actually came out with it, and I was like, okay, thank you. They're such an impressive trios team, and it just felt like Cage was just kind of not a part of it, and I think that was a way of kind of completing that. But Cage's suplex of Willie Mack from the apron back inside, like the whole time I was like, no way, no way, no. And then he did it, and it was so good, so impressive. Just that team
Right.
is just they're beasts.
Brian Cage is so scary big that I would be afraid to disagree with him on anything in case he'd punch me.
Well, but apparently he's the sweetest guy in the world. Like he's like Brody King style.
Seriously,
sweet. It's amazing.
Outside of the ring,
Like,
he's just
I'd
like
introduce myself, and he'd be like, "Oh, it's John, right? Yes, yes, it is."
Yeah, and I'm Jesse.
but I mean, I hear the same things about Brian Cage too. Is he's like outside the ring, he's the sweetest person. This match again, even though I knew the foregone conclusion of where this was going to go, I still thought, and again, Andrew, I totally agree with you. I'm like Brian Cage, and to add an adjective to Jesse's description, Brian Cage is a scary, big, agile wrestler. Because man has hops as well that we have seen from other matches, and I'm just like, no. If I saw Brian Cage, I'm like, someone save me, run far away as possible.
That final sequence where they kept coming in and out with the legal man being Toa and I think it was Willie Mack was just, it was crazy between both teams. They were getting so much offense in.
There was what I thought was a creative spot, and it's more like I'd say 80s style wrestling that harkens back, which I love at times. But when I forget one of the members of Mogul Embassy, I'm not 100% familiar with their names, but draped their leg, like their shin, across his throat while arguing with the ref,
That
so
was
the ref
Khan.
can't see it.
That was
Yeah.
Khan.
That
Yeah.
was great. I loved that. That was such a unique and creative spot that you don't see very often. At least I don't.
Yeah,
I don't know.
thought.
Like I could watch this match. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought, I don't know if they'll keep Willie Mack together with the infantry. I thought there was a lot of great spots where the infantry got to show how good of a tag team they are, especially when they work together against the bigger, stronger opponents. And Willie Mack and Brian Cage getting to go at it a couple times. They've wrestled each other for years. I think that was awesome because we talked about the size of Brian Cage and how well he moves. Willie Mack is up there too. Like the way he moves and performs, you do not expect that when you see him, and it's great.
100%. So it was a good way to end the episode. It was a good way to go out on that, and a very much a dominant style of it. But I feel like we just didn't need it because of what's going on next. Like you didn't need to bring them in going into Grand Slam on a roll. They were going to be that way anyways. And it was more just to set up that kind of main event. So could we have pulled this? What I would have done is pulled the match before it and made this like, a match before, still had it, but then it could have gone just as much time. We would have cut 8 to 10 minutes out of the night and it would have been better. But I don't know. It was surprisingly fast night for as many as we had, but still a little too many matches. I would love to get your ratings here. Andrew, do you know of our rating scale that we do work on here?
I heard the last AEW show, so I had a brief experience with it. But it was something about mini chimichangas. So if you want to
That's a new one.
refresh me on the rating scale, yeah, let's do that.
Started with at one point we were doing Minnie or Evan, one of our co-hosts, basically his heads. So it was minis. And then someone brought up the empanada scale, which was 1 to 5 instead of 1 to 10. And last night on AEW, because Mikey wanted to combine both, it was the AEW mini empanada scale, which was out of 10. So you can do whatever you want, any of those scales to do them. I usually go with empanadas now because I am a large man who enjoys his fried foods. But in general, we'll go with that. So I'll go around the horn here. Mikey, first off, give us your final kind of thought on the show and what your rating was, and we'll go around the horn.
Overall, I thought this was one of the funner episodes of Ring of Honor. I mean, I still have a great time every single week. I mean, yes, I'm still lied to every week of how long the actual episode is, but
Don't believe Instagram.
Yeah, don't believe Instagram, kids, because I don't know why I continue to do this to myself. But this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed all the matches. Again, Ring of Honor always gives me the most women's wrestling every single week. Listen, Spicy Mikey was last night. You're not getting him tonight.
Well, I mean, compared to last night where Spicy Mikey was white people taco night spicy, I don't know if we were that spicy to begin with, but go ahead.
I'm waiting to SmackDown because I'm about to go off.
Yeah.
I'm about
What
to
was your
go
rating,
off
Mikey?
because releases, and also, it was after we recorded NXT that I found out that one of the matches for No Mercy got messed up. So I'm waiting until SmackDown to air my grievances.
So what was your final rating, Mikey?
I'm going to use the empanada scale. So out of 5, I give this a solid 3.2 empanadas out of 5.
All right,
Solid
Andrew,
stuff.
final thoughts
Lot of
and
fun.
your stuff.
I'll go with the I believe it's the mini. Is that the 1 out of 10 scale? I'll go with that one. It was a lot of fun getting back into Ring of Honor, seeing what they've been doing over the last few weeks. There were some great character development, great story progression, some really really great matches. I thought even the low points, they still had their entertaining moments, and they were very few and far between. So I'll give this an 8 out of 10.
Awesome. Jesse, final thoughts and your rating, and what scale are you using?
I'm going to continue using the empanada scale.
Perfect.
So I thought it was a better episode than last week. Again, like everyone else echoing, I thought it was a very fun episode. I would have cut a few things for time. But then again, I do like the fact that they have, bathroom breaks built in there for some of the promos and some of the matches. Like, oh, now's a good time to go because Cole Carter's on my screen. But overall, I think it was better than last week, so I'll give it 3.5 empanadas out of 5.
Perfect. So yes, again, we agree across the board. I'm not going to go into everything else. We kind of discussed it. I will go with the empanada scale as well. I will go with a 3.5 out of 5 this week. It was definitely better than average. I will say could have been a half step better. We did get Dalton Castle this week, but he was only judging the Pure Rules match. Give me more Dalton Castle, and I will give you a half point. But I didn't take any off like I do on Dynamite because ROH has proven they know how to book and use their women. So great on that stuff. Learn from it, bring it to the main roster stuff. So that's what we have there. But ladies and gentlemen, we have gotten to the end of the bro. So again, we shake hands at the end. Everybody, great job tonight. Great seeing you all there. You can see all of us on a lot of different things here on the Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast. We're all on different shows. We do the big things together. We do all types of wrestling. We do get that Indie Fed Impact. We do WWE. We do a bunch of other stuff. But you can follow us on all of the socials at BC WrestlePod. You can follow us on our YouTube channel by subscribing, getting the notifications, making sure that you interact with us in the comments. We want to hear about all your loves, dislikes, anything at all, because it helps the algorithm put us in front of people so we don't have to sacrifice women's matches on Dynamite to it. And honestly, we just enjoy being here. So from myself, from Mikey, from Andrew, from Jesse, we appreciate you becoming part of the bro with us every week, and we hope we'll see you next week. See you in the next video.
Have a good night.